First of all, I would like to thank the City Council for letting us be able to present our project in front of all of you tonight. What started out as a project that my parents wanted as a limited service / extended stay 5-6 years ago, which I talked them eventually out of it, speaking to the community and the university that there was a niche, there was a void that was missing in the city of Davis. So with that being said, we're presenting you this project tonight. We really are so grateful to be in this community, and we want to be able to give back to this community like what it has given us to our family. We do have, I'm nervous, so I think quite a few people know.
You're doing great.
It's a project that, from talking to the local community that, and the university, that the conference center was a component to be able to create a demand generator. Now, we look forward to be able to provide more business into the local community, and from staffing for jobs to the students to the local community. With that being said, actually that wasn't the way it's supposed to come out, but that's the way it is. We do have our project team here, which is Mr. Chuck Cunningham. Okay, I always address everyone by Mr. and Mrs. by their first name. Okay, we have Mr. Jeffrey and then Mr. J there. They'll be able to answer questions that are more directed to them amongst the project. We do want to, be able to. We want to try to, incorporate all the components we can into this project to make sure that we can provide the best project. But I'm sure there's probably certain things missing. But with that being said, we'll try to do our best. And I just want to wish my mom happy birthday, if she's listening. Okay.
Thanks, Asher.
So I'll be here, so I'll maybe calm down a little bit more. I'm a little bit nervous. Okay.
You're doing great. We may call on you, Mr. Chuck. Would you like to speak?
It's okay if I go now. Just a couple comments. The rest of it's Cunningham, Chuck Cunningham.
We may have questions for you later, so this may not be the last time.
And so also with us, besides Jeff Dorso, our attorney, is Ken Anderson with Katie Anderson. It's worked on a lot of projects over the years, and it's nice to have one that enjoys such enthusiastic support for the conference center and the Class A hotel that goes along with it. And I think you'll be hearing tonight from some of the local business community who recognize it as the economic catalyst for economic development, for continued economic development for our downtown core. And then, of course, UC Davis is thrilled about it because it allows more conferences to be held in Davis as opposed to Sacramento and other places. Not without its challenge. The location is the challenge, right? It's the constrained access to downtown, but that same location has tremendous advantages, close to downtown, close to the university. So I got just a couple other comments I'd like to add to those that Catherine made. And she's been wonderful to work with, as has Mike Webb. We've also dealt fairly extensively with transportation folks, Brian Mickelson, Roxanne Namazi, and Jennifer Donofrio, the bicycle coordinator. The Planning Commission process worked just like it's supposed to this time. We came to them the first time. They had a number of comments. In fact, they weren't enthusiastically pleased. But the project improved. The architecture improved, the sustainability improved, and bike and pedestrian safety and access improved. And that resulted, as Catherine said, in a unanimous approval at the second meeting. Let me talk about sustainability just for a little bit. Today I had a conversation with Chris Soderquist. I think many of you know Chris, local energy solar guy. And he did confirm that the about 3,000 square foot array not only meets the site requirements, demands that's contained or listed in the staff report, but goes beyond that. And he thought that probably would address at least 20% of the overall energy demands. But more importantly, he said this without question will be the largest array on a hospitality facility in the Sacramento region. That's pretty good because we got, that's certainly not going to be the largest hotel in terms of rooms. So I was impressed with that. We did other things in terms of sustainability. There's a very aggressive program to get people out of their cars, walking, bicycles, everything from a directional signage program, actually, that the city has a grant to try to, if you think about it, that bike path, the Puda Creek bike path, is a natural. Those of us that know about it use it, but it's not, if you don't know that it's there, we need to let people know about it. And so I think some signage to get people on it will remove them, or some bikes from Richards Boulevard. That's a good thing. The hotel itself is going to have plenty of loaner bikes, storage space, all kinds of information on the website, maps, directing people, and really encouraging them and making it real clear that it's much easier to ride a bicycle and quicker, or even walk to the conference center, the Madavi Center, than it is to get in your car and drive over there. And then, of course, a key tenet of sustainability is if you can, on an infill site, replace inefficient uses like the existing restaurant and hotel rooms with very high efficiency, low energy, low water use facilities. That's a basic concept. So I think actually the Embassy Suites will set a standard for future hospitality projects in Davis. Also, some other things are charging for overnight parking, shuttle services during high usage events. Just about done. I want to talk about traffic just for a second. Bob Grundy mentioned a number of places in the report that he made conservative assumptions. That's appropriate for the CEQA analysis, that you don't want, that's how that should be done. Ken Anderson, our traffic consultant, there's a letter in your report that talks about some of the areas that it's conservative and what would be more likely in normal usage. So take a look at that if you haven't already. The thing with the median, it was the mitigation measure, but what it also does is it cleans up a number of conflict points that exist today between all those left turns from the various businesses on both sides of Richards. I think that's going to prove to be a real benefit in terms of not only car safety, but bicycle and car interface points. The green bike lane, some additional striping, is really, I think, going to make that a much safer corridor for bicycle travel. Plus, if you talk about mitigation, certainly there's those things, but also, as the staff report indicates, there's over $2 million in road mitigation fees. So I think the project is definitely mitigating for its impacts and providing funding for other uses. So one of the things that I think some of the people have mentioned, will probably mention tonight, is the need for some thoughtful forward planning around the Richards and now Olive Drive corridors. And I think this project actually, while we can't solve the big problems with it, I think it actually helps kind of jumpstart that process and can be helpful in that regard. So those are my comments, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it. But yeah, you might want to sit tight. We might have some questions for you. So thanks, Chuck. Welcome. So everyone has 2 minutes apiece, and please go ahead and line up. Mike.
Thank you very much. Michael Harrington, longtime Davis downtown business owner, developer, and a resident. Yards away from Old North right now. But I read the paper at 2 o'clock today, and it said the hearing was tonight, so here I am. I put together a little email packet that I emailed a couple hours ago to everybody, and I filed with the city clerk a few minutes ago. I'm not commenting on the size of the project or the economics of the project or any of that. I know the developer, a super good guy. It's a Davis team. I support, business development that's reasonable and appropriate for the location. And I do like hotel tax. It's really good tax for a city. However, I also really believe in historic preservation, and I believe in good planning process. And I think we have a situation here where the city staff are recommending that you use a neg deck, avoid a full CEQA analysis. And I think that the facts and the law are against that process. So I gave you a little packet, and I put in an engineer's report about critiquing the transportation study that was done. And I put in evidence here that the Richard Subway is a National Registered Historic Landmark. And I also put in evidence that the staff report that you're relying on tonight has verbiage in here saying that the staff confirmed with the HRMC back in May of 2011 that the determination that the project would have no adverse effects on the nearby Davis subway. Well, you go back and look at May 2011, and it was information-only meeting. HRMC never made that determination. So I think between the weaknesses of the traffic report and the fact that the historic resources were not really evaluated, I think that that places you out of the neg deck status. And I believe that if you continue this and looked at that some more, maybe this gentleman will have a good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome.
Good evening, Matt Yancey, CEO, Davis Chamber of Commerce. The Davis Chamber of Commerce supports Royal Guest Hotel's proposal for a hotel and conference center at 1111 Richards Boulevard, and we urge you to support the staff recommendations before you this evening. The Davis Chamber is an advocate for the rapid entitlement and construction of a hotel conference center. Royal Guest's proposal is prudent and mindful of the existing hotel market in Davis. It will allow Davis to compete for visitors and tourists that we are currently unable to accommodate, and it will generate much-needed TOT and sales tax revenue. Thank you for your time and consideration. Again, the Davis Chamber of Commerce supports Royal Guest's proposal for a hotel and conference center, and we urge you to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome, John.
Hello, John Atsoulis, John Atsoulis Gallery, downtown Davis, 30 years. You know, I was on the very first Economic Development Task Force in 1992, and this is the most visionary thing that could come into fruition at this time. This is just amazing. I can see some sculptures, some murals, but mostly for cultural events, this is fabulous. I think we've been waiting for this. There's just no place to do anything. As an event coordinator downtown, there's nothing. All of our hotels have no space whatsoever. You know, this really is something we should be applauding, and we should be really pushing forward, because not only will we be able to see this from the highway and it'll be a beautiful thing for our community, but it'll be a wonderful place for all of us to have various events. And I really applaud the developer. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's an amazing thing. And we are very lucky to have this, because there hasn't really been anything like this in Davis for a long time. So I'm very excited and just want to participate any way I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Al?
Thank you. My name's Alan Pryor, speaking as a private citizen. I think there are many problems with this project that we really have to work through and try and address. For one, the traffic analysis was deficient, and that it relied on unjustifiably low pre-existing baseline traffic counts taken by humans only over a 2-hour period last year. I certainly don't think you can say that's representative. It's compounded by undercounting or underestimating the number of vehicles that had come to the facility during maximum occupancy events. But even the proponents say, no problem, we can handle that, but in fact, they don't have near enough parking to handle that. They're going to have to be turning away hundreds of cars a day. They claim they're going to have off-site parking, including valet parking, but they don't say where that off-site parking is going to be, and neglected to consider the fact that any valet parking you have actually requires a minimum of 4 in-and-out trips rather than 2. I also don't believe this project meets any minimum environmental certification standards, such as LEEDs or Living Community. It'll be the most energy inefficient new building to be constructed in Davis in some time. Why is this massive project given a pass from our emerging environmental-driven building standards? This project was approved by the Planning Commission on July 8th and is now before the Council for full certification and entitlement only 45 days later, all over the summer break. There's never been a project of this magnitude that has moved through the review process this quickly in Davis. The project has not been reviewed by any other city commissions, including the NRC, Traffic and Safety, and Business and Finance, which is absolutely unprecedented. This project is simply not ready for prime time. It must have traffic deficiencies resolved and environmental and financial impacts carefully reviewed by all of the appropriate commissions if Council expects the citizens of Davis to continue to have trust in the city's environmental and entitlement process. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
John Johnston, also speaking as a private citizen. I spent the last 2 days at the California Climate Symposium and came away knowing that things are, or being told that things are worse than we think. So I was drawn to the GHG analysis. I won't argue with the numbers that are generated here, but I would like to put them in some perspective. The project is going to generate a net 2,141 metric tons per year of greenhouse gas emissions, which is 50% more than the existing use. 21 of the 2,100 are going to be offset by solar. And although I agree with Catherine that there isn't any threshold that the city has, the city does have a climate action plan, which has a target, which means that we should be on a downward glide slope toward that target. And what this project does is that it puts a bump in that project, in that glide slope, in the wrong direction. So to offset that bump, we're going to have to ask other citizens, other businesses in town to do more to offset the 2,100 metric tons. And is this a lot? An average greenhouse gas emissions of 4.7 tons per year per car in the U.S. We're asking 450 citizens to retire their cars to offset this bump. So I'm not saying that the project is a horrible project for that reason, but the fact that the staff offered no mitigation suggestions at all on this issue, I think, is inconsistent with city policy. And for that reason, I suggest that I'm going to recommend that you turn away the staff's first recommendation to accept the mitigated negative declaration.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Chris Granger with Cool Davis. I am also interested in talking about the greenhouse gas emissions, and I was wondering if staff could put that slide back up so we can all see it. So I would like to suggest we are in a process now looking at the innovation parks and a number of other big projects coming down the line, and we still have not really developed what I would call a Davis greenhouse gas emission analysis that includes our climate action goals alongside the kind of information that's presented in this table. I would say that this is probably one of the best presentations of greenhouse gas emissions that we've seen on projects recently. We're getting statewide to a place where we're getting really good information in which to evaluate projects and to look at these issues. I would like to suggest that in a Davis analysis, we would be adding a column that included the EPA cost per metric ton of carbon so that we can look at this in terms of dollar amounts, which helps with us looking at what real mitigation might look like in terms of dollars. And then also that we try and get at some of that downward slope that the previous speaker was speaking of, and looking at what this means for individual projects, and starting to work with developers on exactly how we get to net zero for our community in the future when we're adding new construction or we're just dealing with renovation or upgrading of existing projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Sean Raycraft. I'm an organizer with Davis Citizens for a Living Wage. I'm not here to talk about the environmental policy. I'll let the other folks talk about that. I'm here to talk about labor policy. I know somebody who happens to work for the owner of the project that is being proposed. And my concern is that the jobs that are going to be created are going to be like his job. And his job is a poverty wage job. He has no benefits. He makes less than $10 an hour. When he comes through my line at work, because I work at a grocery store, at the beginning of the month, he buys vegetables. At the end of the month, he's buying ramen. And that's my concern. And I'll let my sisters and brothers from Unite here explain why that's really important and why living wages in the hotel industry are very important. But my concern is that people are going to end up more like him. And we do not need more poverty jobs here in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Mi nombre es Jenny Amaya. Soy recamarera en el Sheraton Grand en Sacramento.
Maya, and I'm a housekeeper in the Sheraton Grand Hotel in Sacramento.
Soy miembro del United Here Local 49. Soy recamarera. Es muy difícil, es un trabajo pesado y mucha gente se lastima.
I'm a member of Unite Here Local 49. Being a housekeeper is very difficult. It's a very heavy job, and a lot of people get injured.
Por el contrato que yo tengo por medio de mi unión, tengo protección para asegurar un cargo de trabajo que sea seguro.
Because of my union contract, I have protections to ensure a safe workload.
No soy rica, pero gano un sueldo justo y tengo aseguranza médica.
I'm not rich, but I make a fair wage and I have health insurance.
Para mi familia y sin este contrato no pudiera dar a mis hijos la vida que les quiero proveer.
That's health insurance for my family as well. And without this contract, I would not be able to give my children the life that I want to provide for them.
¿Cómo les pago la universidad con un sueldo mínimo?
How could I pay for the university for them with the minimum wage?
Yo sé lo que es trabajar en un hotel sin unión ganando el sueldo mínimo.
I know what it's like to work in a hotel without a union, making minimum wage.
Si todavía estuviera en esa situación, mis hijos no tuvieran la vida que tienen, no pudieran asistir a la universidad.
If I were still in that situation, my kids that they have, and they would not be able to go to the university.
Ustedes tienen la opción de insistir que los trabajadores en este nuevo hotel sean buenos.
You all have the option to insist that the jobs in this new hotel be good jobs.
O dejar que el dueño pague el sueldo mínimo.
Or to just let the owner pay minimum wage.
My question is, ¿cómo van a vivir los trabajadores?
Who's going to live?
Por favor, no dejen que construyan un hotel de pobreza en Davis.
Let them build a poverty hotel in Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Jenny Amaya. I work for Sheraton Grand Hotel in downtown.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Ty, for translating. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Francisco Garcia, and I work in the catering department for Sleep Train Arena, where the world-famous Kings play. And I'm a member of Unite Here, Local 49. I've worked in the food service industry for 20 years, and I've seen the difference between non-union jobs with minimum wage and no benefits and the good union job I have today. My wages and benefits are important to me, mainly because of insurance and me being head of household. It helps me survive in the world today. I was fortunate because there was already a union at the arena when I started working there. And all we're asking for is that if workers at this future embassy suite have the right to choose, we just want the owner to agree to not run a campaign of intimidation against them and to respect the majority choice of whether to have a union or not. So I came here tonight not to ask you to vote yes or vote no on this project, but just to think about the employees and make sure they have labor peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Rack, and I'm the president of Unite Here Local 49. We are the hotel, casino, and food service workers union in Sacramento and the surrounding counties. We represent about 3,200 workers in the region, as well as hundreds who work here in Yolo County at Cache Creek Casino. Our members work as housekeepers, dishwashers, cooks, servers, jobs that are often low-wage, part-time, dead-end jobs, the kind that don't have benefits and can contribute to the crisis of poverty and inequality. However, after years of organizing, we've been able to turn our members' jobs into good jobs that allow them to make a decent living, have access to good and affordable health insurance, afford decent housing, and support their families with dignity, respect, and security. We have a long way to go, but we're proud of the progress that we've made so far. In our experience, the quality of hospitality jobs in a community has a lot to do with the decisions that city officials have made about what kind of hotel development that they want to encourage. You can have high-road employers who agree to work collaboratively with their employees to create good jobs, or you can have low-road employers whose business model is based on low-wage jobs. The developer for this project already has hotels with minimum wage jobs. You should not give this project the rezoning it is requesting until you can be confident that it will create the kind of jobs that will sustain the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Wolkin, members of the City Council. My name is Ty Hudson. I'm also with Unite Here, Local 49. With the potential for full-service hotels to come to Davis, you all have a choice to make about what kinds of jobs you want a growing hospitality industry to create. Growth of the hospitality industry could mean the growth of good jobs with decent wages and benefits, the kind that allow families to prosper and contribute to healthy communities, or it could mean poverty jobs and an increase in poverty and inequality in the community. We've all heard a lot recently about efforts to increase the minimum wage due to the crises of poverty and inequality that our country is facing. I'm sorry to say that the developers of the proposed Embassy Suites are part of that problem. We've spoken with several workers at their existing hotels in Davis, and we've learned and we've confirmed that Royal Guest Hotels is indeed a minimum wage employer. But hotel jobs don't have to be that way. For example, in the hotels where our members work in downtown Sacramento, housekeepers and dishwashers make over $13 an hour with affordable family health insurance. It's worth another $5 an hour. At Cache Creek Casino here in Yolo County, it's $15 with affordable health insurance. We don't know what kind of wages would be supported by the Davis market, but workers should have a fair chance to organize and negotiate something better than the minimum wage. The city has a choice. The City Council has discretion about whether or not to grant the requested entitlements. The rezoning is essentially a gift to the developer in the form of greatly increased property value, and it should come with commensurate benefit to the community, including the workers. But so far, the developers have refused to engage in a discussion about that. If the city is going to change its zoning to make a particular project possible, you should do so when you know it will be a responsible corporate citizen and will benefit the people of the city. The developer is not entitled to this rezoning by right. So you have a choice to make. You can't be for good jobs, for addressing the income inequality crisis, or for lifting up low-wage workers, and at the same time allow a minimum wage employer to go forward with a project that you know will be more of the same. So I hope you'll vote Davis values today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. Welcome.
Thank you. Barbara King, Davis resident. Davis should do better than the biggest solar array in the Sacramento area, and an rough estimate of 20% of their power coming from solar. Oh God, I didn't talk to anybody in Rhode Island lately either. Solar. Davis can do better. Davis is striving to do better. So I think this project should go past the Natural Resources Commission, where you have people who are really good at working on sustainability. We want true sustainability here. It's going to be a big project. Now, I go to In-N-Out Burger a lot more than I care to admit, usually when I'm running errands or coming back from a vet visit or something, usually part of a big loop all around town or coming back into town. And I'll tell you, making that any turn, especially a left turn out of East Olive Drive onto Richards, you get maybe one or two cars go through there, and the stuff coming at you is not a protected left turn. It's already really bad there, and adding more without I'd like the Traffic and Bicycle Safety Commission to look at this too, to see what else they can add to what these guys have come up with, because the traffic there is just dreadful now. And I like my grilled onions on my In-N-Out burger. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Welcome, Reed.
Good evening, I'm Reed Yeomans. The city of Davis needs this project. We have no meeting space. We have no place for the community to gather for a meal, a Rotary dinner, a chamber dinner, Aggie dinner. There is no place in this community that allows a proper gathering. We go to Sacramento. We go elsewhere for this sort of thing. The University of California, Davis has many, many meetings held in Napa, Sacramento, and elsewhere. We're giving this up. Now, you all know that delay is the deadliest form of denial, and we can study this to the end of the earth and never satisfy them all. This is a proper use for this property. It's a proper use for our community. It will create jobs. You all can figure out intimidation or otherwise how to pay for these jobs. That's not the important thing. It is important that we have a proper meeting facility in the University of California, Davis. It's important that we have a proper meeting facility in Davis, and this is our opportunity. And you can succumb to delay in studies. But remember, delay is the deadliest form of denial, and that's what you're voting on. So let's have this, let's move forward, and let's have a wonderful project. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Alan?
Alan Hirsch. I've heard a lot about the project. It looks very exciting. I have no doubt. Clearly, it's needed. I mean, it's a very exciting entryway to Davis. I'm not the murals on the side. Someone suggested that, but I hear all this pushback about livable wages and certainly a job. Economic growth at the cost of employers not having a livable wage is not an appropriate way of growing our community. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think we need to discuss that a little more deeper. I hear the transportation study. That's wonderful. I didn't hear a risk analysis. There's always a risk. And the planners, I've seen lots of transportation planners, and they're out the door, and if the forecasts don't come through, they're gone. We need to see a risk analysis. There's uncertainty in any forecast. I'd like to see that. I haven't seen that. Are we really mitigating about 10%? All the transportation stuff all the pedestrian and bicycle stuff come in. We're underwriting the Human Resources, the Transportation Commission, as well as the Natural Resources Commission for approval tonight. The project should probably go forward, but there are issues that should be sussed by the community. We have a process, and they should be discussed by the process we have in the community. They should not be end around it. 45 days is not going to kill a project that's been on the board for 5 years. Please, let's do this the Davis way and really get into these projects and build a consensus for us to move forward and feel good about things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome, Matt.
Matt Williams, Davis resident. Conspicuously absent from all of these comments is anyone saying that this is a bad project. That's very good. What we're all trying to do in our own individual ways is to make it into a better project. Make it into a better project in the way that it operates. Providing livable wages may mean that the room rates end up being significantly higher than they would be at minimum wage, but that's a problem that can be solved, and that people who are coming to Davis may be willing to spend 10% more on a room. The issues with regard to greenhouse gases, what Chuck Cunningham has said, clearly indicates that the proponent is very much engaged with the idea of having the maximum possible positive impact on attaining the Davis greenhouse gas goals. I think that there's more that we can do. There's clearly some questions about the traffic. But the reality is that what Alan just said is, let's do it the Davis way. The proponent has come forward. They've complied with the process as it has been presented to them. They've done everything that the Davis way was told to them as. Unfortunately, we didn't organize ourselves to have the kinds of meetings we're talking about now after the fact as in the process. So you all are faced with do we want to redefine the Davis way that we presented to a business that applies to us after the fact? Or do we want to correct it so we don't make this mistake the next time? If there are true flaws in the traffic study, then it needs to go back, and those need to be dealt with. If there are true flaws in the greenhouse gas emissions, yes, you need to send it back. But the reality is that we can't really do things to change the process in the middle. The applicant has given us a good faith application. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome, Rodney. I think you have the last word on this.
Rodney Robinson.
Oh, Elaine Roberts, and Ron. Okay.
Uh-oh. So I couldn't disagree more with the last speaker than is even possible to imagine. And
You could just speak up a little bit.
Rodney Robinson, I said I could not disagree more with the last speaker than you could even imagine. This is not a good project. It's not appropriate for the city. I've spoken on numerous occasions about the Living Building Challenge or LEED Platinum or better as a minimum for buildings in our community in order to reach goals that the planet requires at this time and going forward. This last June, just 2 months ago, was the hottest month recorded on the planet, and this year is indicated to be the hottest year in our history since thermometers were invented. You know, we're on an upward spiral, and we need to get off this fossil fuel and destructive building kick that we're on. These buildings have a long-term impact, and they are negative. This building does not meet even minimum requirements that are needed at this time. And so one of the things that's not covered, I think, is the restaurant and the 2 bars that are in this. This is going to be a destination, and the traffic impact of those restaurants and the bars are not included in this report. The whole valet parking thing is completely backwards. I mean, Alan said it's going to cause 4 trips. I calculate 6 trips for each car that comes in and out. You have 1 car in, you have the valet take the car away, you have the valet bring the car back, and blah, 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 and on and on. I mean, and the valet has to get back and forth in order to get back to his workstation. So there's, it doesn't pencil. The level F on these intersections, yeah, that's the lowest it can go. But, what if they go to G and H? And the Nishi impact is not adequately dealt with because the Nishi reports are not available yet. So this is a pipe dream based on a fantasy.
If you could conclude, Rodney, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Elaine. Welcome.
My name is Elaine Roberts-Musser. I'm speaking as a private citizen tonight. I had the pleasure of working with Bob Grandy on the Transportation Advisory Committee. He had a great deal of integrity and a great deal of expertise in transportation. When he says that there will not be significant traffic impacts for this project, and in fact it might improve the intersection there, I believe him. And I think you should too. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Michael.
Good evening. Michael Bish, President Davis Downtown. To paraphrase a Michael that spoke a bit earlier, I read about this project in the Davis Enterprise 4 years ago, so here I am tonight. I'd like to address 4 aspects of this project. One is I have a great deal of respect for a number of the stakeholders that have raised critical questions about this project, including employees, Cool Davis, and others. They're experts on that. I, not so much. I have a lot of respect for what they said, and I don't think it should be dismissed. But by the same token, there are stakeholders that have participated in this project for many, many years, asked critical questions, had those answered, and still support the project. I do not think that support by those stakeholders should be dismissed out of hand either. Davis Downtown is definitely one of those longtime supporters, as is the Davis City Council. The second point is market need. There is no doubt that there is market need, not only for the conference facility, but for these rooms that are going to be developed. There is no end of data supporting the notion that there is this need. Even as recently as the studies that have been produced as part of the process for the innovation centers, they indicate a need for a greater number of rooms in our community and a greater diversity of room types. A third thing is there are few projects that have a greater cost-benefit ratio than this project. There are very few things that this city council can do that can create benefit at minimal impact. The fourth thing is the historical context. I think it's very important to keep in mind that this project proponent did not come to the city asking to do a project. It was the reverse. The city came to the project proponent. In fact, the city came to many. Thank you very much, Dan, for that finger point and the red light. Have a great evening.
No, you can conclude your thoughts, seriously.
The city went out and actively solicited proposals from many hotel operators. Only 2 stepped forward 4 years ago, and 1 pulled their proposal the evening of that city council, leaving 1 man standing. That man is still here tonight. That's Ashok Patel. And at the time that the city solicited his project, the city was offering $5 million to support that project. That $5 million, of course, has evaporated. That man is still there, and thank you for the extra minute. I appreciate it.
Well, give Michael an inch. Thank you, Michael.
Hi, I'm Ron Glick. I want to be for this project, but I'm really concerned about this minimum wage level employment. This is really, in my mind, a test of the community's commitment to paying living wages. We had the thing to raise the minimum wage here to $15 an hour, and people made the argument that you can't do that in a small community where the surrounding communities all don't have it. I get that. But unionization of hotel workers is something that goes all around the state. It goes on in San Francisco, where they had to fight like heck to their last round with Marriott's and the big hotels there. We saw it here with Sodexo at the university. The university's now saying they want everybody to make $15 an hour. I can't believe you got the tens of millions of dollars on the table. You guys are looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars a year coming into the city. And the lowest paid workers, we don't care enough about them to make sure that they get a decent wage. Please, please. You know, we're not talking about unions with people that are making, you know, off the charts money and, you know, contributions to state pension funds and all of that. We're talking about maids and housekeepers and cooks. You know, and I hope the food's as good as Italia is when you guys get done with this thing. But I really think, I really think that if it means that you have to charge a little bit more for the rooms so that your workers can have a decent life, then we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.